Hello, and welcome to the Thinking Ahead podcast. My name is Ronaldo Stevens, and I'm your host on this journey to find out more and discover the truth about careers, college, and finance. What's the best burger you've ever had? I'm sure the answer will be different for each person, but I'm going to point out Five Guys and Red Robin as two of the better burger places in America. However, their vibes are completely different. Walking into Five Guys, you're hit with the sounds and smells of the grill right off the bat. It also has a limited menu, and you have the knowledge that you'll get your order within a few minutes of placing it. Not to mention, you know they're gonna toss in a bunch of extra fries in that bag. Going to Red Robin, you get the full restaurant experience. Someone finds you a comfy seat, gives you a menu, explains some of the specialty items, you order your drinks first, and they cater to you. Literally. Of course, you do end up paying a higher price at Red Robin for the whole experience, and the unlimited fries, but you get your sweet Thai chili ketchup with those unlimited fries. And you feel a bit more satisfied, even though the burger is really what you came for. Now, some of you are probably thinking, why is he talking about food? And I am, but my analogy is actually referring to community college and a traditional university. Two different experiences, both selling burgers. I mean, education. Which one is right for you? Let me preface this whole episode by saying that the all-American movie-featured, trope-based traditional college experience is kind of a myth. Really an untruth. Not a scam, but you're being sold on the image of fun and entertainment more so than the academics, of course. And one of the truths that I want you to hold throughout this entire episode, and really throughout my entire podcast series, is that your college or your higher learning experience has to fit you. You don't have to cater to the college experience. After all, whether or not you go to college to learn and grow your mind, or to have fun and expand your soul or your feelings, that's on you. Don't feel pressured to fit into some other person's idea of what college should be. Not even mine. So, whatever phase of life you're in, high school, some college, no college, returning after having children or some major life event to college, I want to go over the differences and some of the different reasons people would choose a community college or a traditional university. First question that some people have out there, and some people should have, really, right off the bat, is what is the difference between a community college and a traditional college or university? And for the sake of today's episode, I'm going to be leaving the conversation mostly to public colleges and universities that are sponsored by their unique or their respective state boards. Private universities have their own boards and some of their own standards, and some private universities actually predate boards and standards, and so they are different and kind of in their own field. Now, community college and traditional college, or university, can seem like a very confusing thing at first because you'd think something with the name college in it has to be at a certain level or academic rigor or accreditation. And yeah, you're right. From your large NCAA schools all the way down to your barber schools, you have different councils and boards that vouch for the education and the programs. One of the main differences between the quote-unquote community colleges and universities is that they have different governing bodies and different accreditations. Accreditations is how it's spelled, hard T. I'll figure it out. For example, in Wisconsin, they have the Wisconsin Technical College System Board that looks over 2-year and technical universities. And then they have the University of Wisconsin system that oversees the public universities such as the University of Wisconsin-Madison. While there is variation from state to state, this type of setup is pretty common. In short, and what most people agree on when they're differing between community colleges and universities, is that community colleges focus on short-term academics with a focus on technical and career-based learning, certificates, continuing education, and associate's degrees. Meanwhile, universities focus on long-term and research-based academics with a more broad and deeper selection for degrees, majors, and minors. So that's the first thing we need to get out of the way, is the difference. And there will be some overlap between the programs, and as I'm going to describe later, there are instances where you can start at a community college and end up at a university. Next, let's get cost out of the way. Community college is cheaper than a state university. Hands down. No argument. Here's an example from the Boston area. University of Massachusetts, Boston campus, charges about $16,000 for a full-time student in 2026. Meanwhile, Bunker Hill Community College, also in Boston, charges about $9,000 for a 15 credit hour schedule, which includes mandatory health insurance, by the way. And this is much more affordable than the private school, Boston University, which has a price tag of $71,000 per year. Another reason we're not talking about private schools in this episode. And you usually not only save money in the per credit hour cost, but fees are typically cheaper as well. At a state or private university, whether they like to admit it or not, they pass the facility burden and expansion onto the students, regardless of if you're going to use that 40,000 square foot gym or not. Larger universities also have the additional pressure of keeping up appearances to compete for out-of-state students, and project contracts or research grants, and thus they keep updating and upgrading their facilities. Community colleges don't really face the same pressure, as their main goal is to get you, or the students, on track to join one of these schools, and then to train you professionally, and then join the workforce in a very streamlined manner. Housing cost is the next big marker, sometimes being even more than tuition depending on where you go. Traditionally speaking, most community colleges are made for the part-time and working students, but even full-time students aren't required to live on campus, like at some four-year universities. Heck, most community colleges don't even have on-campus housing. Indian River State College here in Florida is one of the few that do. But they were built, or I should say that one was built, with the understanding that most students will be commuters. Universities that are built away from a major city or at the edge of one usually have three types of housing, and this is my own categorizing. Cheap student housing, expensive student housing, and housing that students and 20-somethings can't afford. Affordability is, of course, dependent on the individual, but the truth is that housing costs are going up, and there are more students that are living at home for post-secondary schooling. I believe it was the New York Times that just released an article about that. In addition to housing costs, transportation costs are also something to consider. Even if you have the possibility of driving to either a university or a community college, you may have a commute that's 2 hours, depending on where you live and where the school is. But larger universities typically charge more for parking and have more traffic to boot. Again, the idea behind community college is that you are staying close to home, your community, and gaining skills for work that can be applied in a real-world setting. So, the idea that you'll be driving very far to get to that school is not really what their intention is. A few other things to consider if you're going to be thinking about the cost of community college versus university is that since you won't be living on campus, or if you're not living on campus, you probably won't have a meal plan. While that may involve more cooking or more begging your parents to create enough for leftovers, cooking at home is significantly cheaper than campus meal plans, no matter which way you go. The University of Central Florida's on-campus unlimited plan is about $3,000 per semester, and that gives you $450 of dining dollars. That's money you can spend outside of the cafeterias and at some real-world restaurants that accept them. Even with that included, you're looking at $6,000 for the school year, or $9,000 if you include the summer semester. But something that you need to keep in mind is the times that your friends will want to go to a place that doesn't accept your dining dollars. So your buddies will probably want to go to Waffle House or IHOP at 1 a.m. and I don't think they'll take your dining dollars. By the way, there is always a friend that wants to go to IHOP or Waffle House at 1 a.m. Be ready for that. It's going to happen. Even if you look at some of the cheaper meal plans, you will still be spending about $12 per meal. But if you eat at home and only eat out every once in a while, you could spend about $300 to $400 a month and still eat comfortably. That would be only $4,800 a year. So much cheaper and covers the whole year. That's the way I would go if cost is an issue. All right, moving on from cost, I'd like to mention application and entrance. While this is a minor note, the application process to community college is so much easier. It's almost not funny. To apply to university, students sweat for months, even years, over GPA, SAT and ACT scores, community service, extracurriculars. The list goes on. The only thing one really needs to get into community college are a high school diploma or GED, a transcript, and the means to pay for your classes. That's it. This makes community college a good choice for those who had a hard time bringing their high school GPA back up after some early mistakes, but have learned some vital skills and are ready to lock in for that next level. Speaking of getting locked in, let's talk about quality or academic rigor. This is really like comparing apples to oranges, or lemmings to Fraggles, or He-Man to She-Ra. I'm probably going to go watch that movie this summer. But yeah, they're similar but completely different at the same time. Remember, community colleges focus on certificates, technical learning, and short-term advancements for those that are currently working or planning to go to another university. Meanwhile, at universities, your main focus is to learn deeper into your study. After those first 4 years, if you're in a master's program, you're going to study even deeper. And on top of that, if you're going for a doctorate or some sort of other major terminal degree, you're going to study even deeper. Inception noise. My point is this. Universities have become research facilities for the most part, especially the big ones. Many moons ago, there was a time when universities sought to create the well-rounded students, and that's what the liberal arts degree and liberal studies degrees were for. But now universities find their strengths and thus their budget in focusing on in-depth research. So while the beginning classes, or the undergrad classes, are very similar between community college and university, you will not find doctorate programs at community college. Now, this feels like it would tie into class difficulty, and you'll find many opinions across the Reddit sphere and YouTube and other online forums that community college is easier than university. But I am going to counter-argue that and say it depends on the university and the reasons for the class difficulty. One of the main things that makes community college easier, air quotes, by comparison, is access to the teaching staff. It's so much easier to get the professor's attention in a class of 30 than in a class of 300. If you now tack on the something to prove culture of academics at major universities, along with the risk of losing scholarships if you don't get a certain GPA, you can see why academic rigor is considered more difficult at some four-year universities. There's also a specific problem that well-known universities and university programs deal with, and that is program size. While they may have 1,200 freshmen that want to take a very specific track, let's say optics engineering, four-year colleges may only realistically have 300 slots available for those higher level 3,000 and 4,000 level courses. I ran into this problem with my art degree because the art program only had a certain number of slots available for those courses, so they had a pretty difficult portfolio review. Or, in my opinion, it was difficult, but that's only because I didn't pass the first time. I'm not bitter, you're bitter. What I'm trying to say is they sometimes make the core classes harder for the specific purpose of weeding out students. Now, I want to take this time to also make a special side note about graduation rates, because that does tie into rigor somewhat. Now, if you look at online community college graduation, Now, when you look at online community college graduation rates, say through niche.com and iche.com, I'll put it in the show notes, they may look terrible at first, like very low percentage of people graduating from community college. Now, the reason for this is not because students aren't finishing their programs or aren't graduating, it's because they're transferring to four-year universities. As I said, most community colleges and most community college students have specific goals in mind, and completing the program at community college is actually not one of them for a lot of students. They actually have the plan to get an associate's degree or get specifically into a program that has a direct connect, as they call it down here, to a bigger school. So that means you could get the training or get a specific certificate and get those credits so that you can transfer to a four-year university and get in those higher level courses, sometimes easier than students that started at that four-year university. So don't let the numbers trick you into thinking that community college has a low completion rate, or that it's not worthwhile. When it comes to degree choices, community college can be like Five Guys, which is why I had that analogy at the beginning. Even though it's a limited menu, it's good, fairly cheap, and fairly quick. You also may see one of your best friends from high school there, working on the fry counter. Meanwhile, a true four-year university would be more like Red Robin. So many options and customizations that it may take you a while just to decide what you even want. But as long as you're getting something besides water, they won't complain or arrest you. Also, one of your friends works there, but they're currently working a different section of the restaurant, so you only get a wave or you only see them every once in a while. Yeah, universities are big. As I've said before, and I'll say it again, because I want to make sure you get the point across, community colleges are designed with a very specific purpose in mind: to let students of any age come in and complete the certificate or program of their choosing that fits comfortably and affordably as possible into their current life. So there won't be any research-heavy programs in a community college. Instead, you'll find feeder programs, again, that will take the students and lead them into a larger university. Let's take Indian River State College, for example. They only have 11 bachelor degree programs, which is actually more than a lot of other community colleges. They have also 15 career and technical education programs. But when you combine all the offerings that they have together, including associate's programs, professional trainings, and other certificates, they have over 150 educational offerings. The professional and technical fields are where community colleges really get to stand out. Jobs in the fields of, for example, HVAC, plumbing, and elevator repair don't have prestige, but they are necessary for our way of life and actually pay better than some of the jobs that people have to go to universities for. This is really where the rub between academics and jobs comes in. And that's really what's at the root of this community college versus university argument. And I would say it's an argument and debate. Because in our country, in the US, there's an underlying belief that community colleges are lesser than universities. Some people would say that you're not as successful if you don't go to a prestigious university. Like that old joke, how do you know if somebody's from Harvard? Don't worry, they'll tell you. This is really dangerous thinking, and it's actually really strong among those who have a high academic proficiency, i.e., get good grades in high school. It's actually the way I thought. Now, I have no idea who put that idea there, but it was to me and many of my peers that community college wasn't even on the table. But unlike some of my other peers, it wasn't an option for me because they didn't offer the track I wanted. So I did go to school for art, and Rose State College, the community college of where I'm from, offered only a few classes that you could take alongside their general associate's degree track. When I was looking for a school, I kept filling the pool of prestige, of going somewhere well known that had a campus style that I liked. I was really looking at Columbia and New York City for a while. But I had to keep my focus on my goals. The two things are the two non-negotiables that I decided I needed for college were an animation program and a marching band. Back when I was in school, the only two places that had those options were University of Central Florida and Ohio State. And UCF offered the better financial aid package. Now, if I could go back with the knowledge I have now, I may have done some things differently, but hindsight is spent better in learning lessons, not chasing the what-ifs. I could only make the decisions of that time with the knowledge that I had at that time. One of the main points I want to drive home is that before you make the decision of community college versus university or any career route in general, is you have to decide where you want to go in life. What job do you want? What area do you want to live in? How much debt do you want to carry? Hopefully zero. And what kind of life will you live inside and outside of school? You have to start practicing and envisioning your life after 4 or 5 years. And this is where it gets tricky. Some people have trouble thinking that far ahead and only follow the next step of their peers or parents. Others have a specific goal in mind, and as soon as some hiccup or disturbance happens that strays from the plan, they're like, I'm a loser, throw away this plan, throw away my future, I'll just become a manager at Circuit City for the discounts. And yes, I know Circuit City is dead, just like my future. Jokes aside, remember 3 things from this. Walk away with 3 things. Number 1, you can only make plans for the future with the knowledge and the desires that you have now. You can try to guess the type of person you'll be in 5 years, but you do have to see things as they are now, and you have to create a plan with the knowledge that you have now. Number 2, don't be afraid to shift or change your plan in the future. Some people feel that starting off at a community college leaves them there for the next 5 years of their life. That's not the case. I mean, you can transfer between in-state universities pretty easily too. And if you need to take a break from school, take a break. You have to learn to trust your decisions. That's part of growing up. Number 3, you are your own person. Even with the advice I'm giving. Some of it is objectively helpful, but some of it, a lot of it, I'll admit, is my own opinion. Like, obviously, community college is cheaper, but maybe your parents' and scholarship preloading has made costs a non-factor. But also, maybe you have different things going on in your life than Susan down the street. Maybe you need the flexibility of a community college so you can care for a loved one more easily while still pursuing your goals. Let Susie sorority party over at Random State U. You've got your own issues to take care of. And the last thing I'm going to say and leave you with is a saying or a quote from a mentor, Willie McKinney, and he says, it's not what you get in life, it's who you become in the pursuit of your goals that will matter in the long term. If you like the contents of today's episode, be sure to subscribe or like so that you can catch the next episode. Until next time, set your goals, do the daily work, and of course, keep thinking ahead.